And welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to the garage. Welcome back to another great video. As you can tell by the thumbnail, we're going to be working on the Sonic again. Sonic out there in the street, as you can see, because we have too many cars in the stable. But that's okay, because the more cars, the merrier. Jumping right into what we're going to be doing today. Not sure if you guys recognize this. This is what I'm talking about. This piece right here. If this looks familiar, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because unfortunately it's a common issue with these Chevy Sonics, and as well as a couple other vehicles that Chevy has. If you don't know what this is, unfortunately you probably will eventually soon. Let's go ahead and gather up the tools, make our way out to the car, and get this install going for today. So now that we're in the car, I can kind of point out what this is. This is your little temperature control knob or cable, whatever you want to call it. That is what's behind the scenes, that when you turn the knob to heat or cold, it actually turns a valve, a damper up there. Kind of hard to see, but I'll get some light so you guys can see what exactly we're looking at. This is where the glove box is normally at, but I went ahead and popped that out. It just kind of clips into the pivot points here, and of course you have your little damper that you got to pull off. But yeah, you need to take off your lower portion of the glove box. Next thing up, we got to get access to the back side of this panel. I'll start here at the bottom. We got to remove this lower portion. Pull up on this. Kind of hard for me to do it with one hand, but this will pop right out. Once you have that popped off, your center shifter knob, your center shifter boot, if you have a manual, it'll be super easy. If you have an automatic, it'll be a little bit more difficult. So you just slide that through, pull this up, set that aside. This will be fine right here. I'll shift it into fourth just so it's a little further out the way. And now you can see two screws that will be taking off this lower portion, but there's also two more up top. So we got to pull off our center dash bezel here, or center molding, and you're going to need some plastic pry bars. Those are going to be your best friends so you don't mar the surface. Stick it in between here, probably from both sides if you can, and you'll pry back and it should release. I need two hands to do that, but go ahead and pop off your center trim. So then we can turn our attention to these four screws here to remove the lower portion. It looks like we got a 7mm, yeah, so a 7mm socket. So go ahead and remove those four. All right, once you got that, go ahead and give it a wiggle, get it up and out of the way. You're gonna have your electrical connections on the back side, so go ahead and reach back there and disconnect them. To give you guys a better view of just how many connections are on the back, there's a total of like 6 of them, one for all the knobs down at the bottom. As I flip it over, here's 1, 2, 3, and then as well as 3 on the top for those smaller buttons, the lock button, hazard button, and then the passenger airbag light. So yeah, there's your top 3, there's your bottom 3, and now all that's left is the switches right here. That's not supposed to look like that. My issue is the air temperature control knob, which, as you now see, is broken, and that feeds along this line all the way down over here. And if you can see up there where that white piece is, that's actually your control valve. There's a little bar or a little panel, that thing that I just moved, that's what's spinning, opening and closing, switching from AC to heater every time you turn that knob. Without further ado, go to flip around to the back side. This thing just held on by clips. I'm gonna be sure to do this with 2 hands so I can make sure everything's lined up correctly. But here's one clip right there that corresponds to this side tab here, that little clip, and it's simply just going to be a plug and play at this point. The hardest part will be kind of wiggling your fingers down up underneath there to screw in that side. That side will have a screw right in the center connecting it to that little gear mesh down there. Let me go ahead and remove the old one, and then we'll get ready to install the new one. Before we actually install the new one thing I'd actually recommend is kind of adding some type of lubrication to your cable. I'm gonna apply just a little bit of silicone, water-based silicone, or you can use some like dry lube. I know there's a bunch of different brands out there, but this is what I'm gonna use, hopefully to help alleviate some of the wear on it. So hopefully I'll never have to do this again. So this side is disconnected from the control knob itself, and one thing I wanted to point out, because I'll be honest, this is going to be pretty tedious and difficult. But back there you can kind of see my little wrench. I have a little adjustable wrench on that screw because there's not much room to work back there. You're right on the left side of your air blower and then your filter, and yeah, there's not much room to really fit a socket. If I had a smaller ratcheting wrench, that may work, but nonetheless the smallest I have is a 6mm, and it's smaller than that. So lights down at the bottom, shining up, and essentially what I'm having to do is lay on the seat sideways, reach my hand up in there, grab that wrench, and slowly, turn by turn, pretty much going on the screw, turning, on the screw, turning, over and over. And we're getting there. We're not quite there yet. We still got a little bit more to go. Again, this is going to be the most difficult part of the job. You can do it, it's just going to take some time. It's going to be real tedious. If you have a ratcheting wrench, that'll probably be better. Let me go ahead and continue, get this off, and then we'll be ready to install the new one. Alright guys, so I got the screw out, and there it is. I'll put a little diagram description up of just what it looks like as far as the location wise. So now, time to go ahead and feed out the old one, which as you can see, it's no longer connected up there. And then I think I'm gonna feed it back this way since that back side is smaller, and we'll pull it out the front side. Alright, so I couldn't get it to feed out, and I ran into the problem of the faceplate it's extremely wide. So I had to take out the radio itself. There's these two screws at the bottom, and now with those screws out the way, I should have enough clearance to fish this in between the middle on the back. Should be able to come out the bottom just like that. So there it is. There's the old broken one, and now we got to put the new one back in. And now vice versa, take this guy, go back up. What I did was actually reached my left hand back here, grabbed onto that metal mount back there. There's a little bit of give, but even millimeters help a lot. So while I was pulling towards me with my left hand, I was fishing this thing through and up from the back of my right hand. Go ahead and continue to fish this down the same pathway, and then from up underneath, there's the piece again, and then we're going to be screwing that back up into that same spot. First, I'm actually going to apply a little bit of extra, probably white lithium grease along the gear mesh. I want to lubricate this as much as possible because I definitely don't want to ever have to do this again. Up here on the front, you're simply just going to click this back in place and realign your knob. This guy is keyed in a way. Hopefully you guys can see that shape. Can't put it in wrong. So you just got to line it up, and before you connect it over there underneath, just make sure your knobs turn to their full potential. Up underneath, as you can see, there's a piece. Hopefully you guys can see it moving. That's all the way cold. That's all the way hot. So pretty much you just got to remember what setting you had it on in the last time and just put it at its far extreme. So I put mine to actually heater. So right now I'm turning the knob all the way to the heat setting, and then now with two hands I'll go ahead and push that gear right back on the little post that it sits on. I'll put the screw in just to kind of hold it in place, and then I'll test it and make sure that flapper valve that's being controlled by your knob does open and close. So I'll show you here in a second. Let me just get that gear back in place. There we go. Got it tightened in there, but it took me a while to get it aligned, and yeah, it took the better part of 45 minutes just to get that installed. As you can see, I have it in cold mode, and when I turn the knob, there you go. Turns the flapper to heat. So yeah, it took a long time to get it aligned and get that screw in there. Very slowly. So that's going to be the hardest part. But once you get it in there, you can rest assured that you're done with that part. So now I got to put everything back together, starting with those screws and then the radio itself. And we're just going to work in reverse order and get everything else back installed. And there you go, guys. Now I got got everything back together. Pretty much the main thing is you can feel the tension in there as you're turning, which means that flapper valve is indeed working. We're about to hit summertime here in the beautiful state of Arizona, and as always, it's going to be 102 damn hot out here. You're now done, and you have now completed another great task on your Chevy Sonic with everything Avery. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again for watching, and thank you guys for your support. As always, all the tools that I used today in the project all going to be linked down below, and they are an affiliated link, which I do receive a commission with, which helps me make videos like the one you've seen today. I appreciate you guys. As always, stay tuned. We have a whole lot of cars in the stable, a whole lot of stuff that we want to do this summer. Stay tuned, and I'll check you guys out in the next video soon.